Have you ever wondered what happens at the General Assembly? Do you even know what the General Assembly is? Are you aware St. John's had a commissioner at this year's General Assembly? Welcome to Church Chats. My name is Timothy Rose and I am the minister of St. John's Preparatory Toy. Today we have Naomi with us to talk about the General Assembly. Joanna, how are you doing after sitting through the first ever General Assembly held via Zoom?
I think, first of all, I'm honored and blessed to be attending the General Assembly. Which, I think the process is a humbling experience via Zoom.
Yes.
I think through God's grace, I feel rejuvenated, restored, also refreshed. However, it is different this time around.
Okay.
Not meeting face to face.
Okay.
Yeah, especially using video communication as a social system for staying connected with people.
Okay. Well, for those at St. John's Preparatory Toy who do not know what we're talking about, could you explain what is General Assembly?
Okay. The General Assembly is a place of business discussions, and these are held every 2 years. It sets the policies and directions for the church.
So this is the policy and the business of the wider church.
Yes, yeah, and inside those policies and directions, the regulations are approved.
Okay, so these are regulations that affect all the Presbyterian churches that belong to the Presbyterian Church of Aotearoa, New Zealand. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So then, have you ever gone before? Was this your
I went in 2018, which was my very first time. I tell you what, it was very overwhelming. It was a lot to take in. Yeah.
What was that? It was a lot to take in. What did you have to take in?
I think it was the information of how the presbytery is run on a national level. Politically, I know spiritually we are in a church, but politically that's what that was overwhelming for me.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. Because a lot of people at St. John's, we just go to church on Sundays. We don't think much about how things are governed, and we don't really appreciate that we're part of a presbytery, which is part of the whole church in New Zealand. And so, yeah, we don't always understand. So, man, that must have been overwhelming. So you went back in 2018. Now, that was over a 5-day period, wasn't it?
Yes, it was, because you're looking at the local level, because there are 3 tiers. There's the local level, which is the church and the congregation, and then there's the second level of which is the presbytery throughout New Zealand. Where for Auckland, it's the northern region, and then you go a little bit further, it's the central, and then there's Kamai, there's Alpine, there's Southern Presbytery. So there's also the alcohol, I forgot. Yeah, and also the Pacific Presbytery.
Right. So you're describing we've got basically 5 geographical defined presbyteries, and then 2 ethnically defined presbyteries. Yes. So we belong to the northernmost part of the country. Yes. Oh, that's cool. And then the other 2, of course, are one for the Maori, one for Pacifica. Specifically, those are almost like synods, but they're still called presbyteries. But yeah, that's interesting. So they all come together, and so we all come together as so it's a general assembly. We come together every couple of years, and so everybody that participates, like yourself, is called a commissioner. So how were you selected?
It was through the St. John's Preparatory Board of Managers session. Interesting enough, I was only new for a couple of years, so that was another learning experience for me. If I fast track it, it was over exhilarating.
Oh, okay.
But in saying that, I always prayer is important for me. So whenever I'm given a role like this, I pray before I even come in, and then I pray after. Knowing that God is going to be present in the work that I'm commissioned to do.
Oh, amen. Amen. Yeah, traditionally, a General Assembly is meant to be an assembly of all the parishes in the country, the ministers of every parish, and one representative elder from every parish is meant to attend. Now, we don't do it that way anymore in New Zealand. Northern is probably the largest of the presbyteries, and so Northern doesn't quite do it that way. So we send representatives by clusters. And so our cluster, St. John's Preparatory, and then of course there's St. Andrew's at Otahu, and then there is St. Martin's in our sister church there in Preparatory. So the three churches, we send one representative elder, one representative minister. So it's a little bit different. But now that we've done it by Zoom this year,
Yeah.
it just makes me wonder if we should just go back to the traditional way where everybody is represented. Oh my goodness. Hey, you're called a commissioner. So when you represent our church at an assembly, what does a commissioner do exactly?
I think it's to speak on behalf of the local churches in our clusters,
Yes.
and also report back to them as well. So if I've what I've been listening in the Zoom one this last Thursday, I think it was difficult because it's more of the recommendations. On top of that, there is another a session which is the breakout discussions that will be probably happening in April 2022.
Okay.
So those were the bits that we didn't have, and those discussions are really important when we're getting together with other ministers and other commissioners as well.
Yeah, because part of the Presbyterian way is discussion and debate and really teasing out the details. And I didn't see any of that in this.
No, yeah. So that was quite challenging for me.
Yeah.
I found that quite challenging because not being at the General Assembly in person, there is a difference when meeting face to face with ministers and other commissioners.
Okay.
I think conversations are important when you hear others' perspectives of policies, directions in regards to the regulations for Presbyterian. Not having those breakout discussions supports. Also, these support your decision to ask questions leading into the debates before the voting process. So yeah, that was one of my challenges. I felt, because all you could see was recommendation, and then you had to quickly read it. Then you had to align it up with what you're reading on this white book that was given a month before. So my little stickies were quite helpful. My little post-its.
Oh, okay. So if I understand this right, as a commissioner, you're actually voting, and you're voting on our behalf. Yeah. And you've been sent this, you refer to it as a white book. We'll tease it out in a little bit. But you were sent this white book a month ago, but now during the commission, they put something up on the screen. They ask you to vote on it, and you have to quickly compare what's on the screen with what you were given in the past. Is that correct?
Yeah, because there is a white book that that they're going through, and this is where the.
So do you know why they call it the white book?
Oh, I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure either. That's why I was asking the question. Well, I suppose we can look that up. But the white book. So it's a collection of all of the business that has to be discussed at the General Assembly by the commissioners. And so they put it together, and they expected you to read through everything. So how big was the white book this year?
Ooh, I think it's quite a huge, about 200 and something pages.
Wow.
Yeah. So they're broken down into sections. So and methodologically, because this is how I work, you can break them down to align it up with the policies that align with all the regulations. So, quite interesting enough, when you're in discussion or when you're reading it, you kind of understand where they're coming from, and so
Okay.
you're able to make a decision right there and then.
Okay.
Most of the decisions were straightforward. However, there were a few that, you know, sometimes you have to hesitate and really think carefully. Oh, am I doing the right thing by agreeing?
Yes.
And even if you disagree, the motion is always carried.
Isn't that something?
Majority
Yeah.
agrees. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting the wording you're using because Presbyterians are very precise. So if it's an agreed, then everybody said 100% voted in favor. But if it was carried,
Yeah.
that meant that there were some who dissented. So a majority voted for it. But that it's almost as if it makes the agenda, it's going to be carried. It's
Yeah. Exactly.
So you've had all the time to tease it out ahead of time. You've had all the time to. I mean, I know it's not guaranteed that way, but that's how it came across. And so, what kind of things did you find in the White Book this year that were of interest to you?
I think one of the things that came across for me is the voices of young people.
Oh,
Find, when I'm watching, I'm thinking, very regimental, I might say. I don't know if it's the right word, because there is a lot of mature expertise in that in the field of the General Assembly. I do like to close the gap, I suppose, because when one leaves, there's another one to carry on with the General Assembly. And I think the theme this time around I think it's the right timing.
yeah, because the theme was empowering generations, wasn't it? Empowering generations. And so you said you think that was the right theme this time around.
Because
Why is
I am aware that the biblical verses shared that day in Deuteronomy 6, verse 4 to 7. This is probably the teaching from a parent about the Christian life principles to a child.
right?
If you get Matthews 19, verses 13 and 14, where Jesus conveys that children are just as important in being heard. So for me, I want to use past knowledge and future knowledge by joining these two together. What does that
Okay.
mean, and what do I think empowering generation would mean in St. John's Peppertoy?
Yeah.
Um,
That's because that is my question. What does this mean to us? I mean, that's the General Assembly. It's a theme that's been, they want to, obviously, they want to promote over the next 2 years. So, how is that going to affect us here at St. John's Preparatory?
I think with the diverse members in our church, there's past knowledge. So, if, for example, in my place, if I look at past knowledge, it's a place of education. It's how my parents and whānau nurtured me to grow in Christ.
Yes.
I mean, the seed is planted, it's watered, nurtured to grow in fertile ground. And I can walk back in time and use that knowledge, or what knowledge I need, or positive experience,
Yes.
perhaps share what I've learned and hope to share with the future generation of,
Oh, that's neat.
not just the future generation of young, future generation of old and young.
Yes.
The future knowledge, I think I'm reminded of the Sunday school song called "The Wise Man and the Foolish Man." It's a song that so that solid foundation is important. And however, if the foundation is not solid, how do we begin empowering generations now if we do not take care of our youth, our persons of mature age together?
Yeah.
We become like the sand that dwindles during the storm.
Yeah.
So we do not want St. John's Peppertoy just to think about the biblical and worldly knowledge. We want to bring those together. And I think going together by embracing the old and the new, coming together, getting to know each other. Do you know me? Do you hear me? Through conversation, seeing, looking, listening, and hearing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. That's really good because when I heard the moderator talk about the theme, he stated straight away this is not about getting young people into the church. And what you're describing is that every generation is empowered. We are the church. The children are a part of the church, but so too are the elders a part of the church. We are the church, and so we need to be communicating to each other, working with each other, sharing our knowledge, sharing what we know. St. John's Preparatory is wonderful at having a multi-generation, multicultural congregation. I think we're somewhat unique among many congregations in New Zealand. And so I think in many ways this theme is something that we've been doing, but kind of subconsciously. And so having the theme being promoted, it really makes us articulate what is it that we're doing. I mean, you take our morning teas, for instance. If that's a total fellowship, isn't it, of all the generations around food. It's wonderful. And so we need to be imparting our knowledge and impart to each other and our understandings to each other. It's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. I like that. Congregating together. Food. Food brings people together.
It does, doesn't it? What was the biggest blessing of participating in the General Assembly this year?
I think the processes, knowing the processes, the conduct of the General Assembly. Each business session is always blessed with a prayer, which that's inspiring for me. From Wednesday night to Thursday evening, it's almost like God is whispering to you, "I'm with you."
Neat.
Although those discussions did not happen, the breakout communications didn't
Yeah.
happen, but it's a blessing to converse with. Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like the spiritual aspect of the meeting you really resonated with.
Yes.
And it also sounds like you were a little bit more comfortable this time than the first time around.
I was. I was like, I thoroughly got it.
Yes.
I really understood the process around. Oh gosh, this is so cool. Just the breakout conversations were the ones that would have been great.
It would have been great. And it sounds like that's going to take place in April.
Yes.
Yeah. Hopefully face to face.
Yes.
Yeah. So what was the biggest challenge to this assembly for you personally?
For me personally, I think it would have been the intensity of listening, because on Zoom, it's actually different. And it's the hearing, the reading, the recommendations before voting. Time for questioning was difficult, I think, because timing is not on your side when you're on Zoom.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you're reading your bits that you've noted for yourself, so you know when to or how to agree with these.
Yeah. Did you ask any questions during this assembly?
No, I didn't, because
Did you want to?
yeah, I did, because I'm one of those that can't sit still when I know something's not.
So it's almost as if you felt as if the process kind of suppressed you a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know these breakout sessions, I will talk. Yeah.
Well, was there any particular question that you wished you could have asked that you want to ask for us?
Yeah, I think part of the I have a thing for child protection policy. So that was when I started reading through those.
Yeah, I'm sorry. No, your connection just went a little bit. So I was just going to ask if you could repeat that. You said that there was a question about the child protection policy that you would have loved to have teased out more.
Yeah, I think those are important when you're beginning to make changes within the church. I think those are important to really value our children, our young families, where they are protected and they are safe. That was one that I really wanted to tease out a bit. There was another one, I think it was towards the end, when Reverend Ropati Mani came on. I thought that was an interesting topic around complaints procedures.
Yes.
Those are things that I'd like to discuss a little bit more because the processes. I'm not sure if those in the past and how do we make these things become useful for our church.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, those are some major things, actually. And so I do hope and pray that you say next April, perhaps you'll be able to sit down in the breakout conversations and tease these things out. But yeah, it sounds like some important issues that had to be dealt with electronically that would have been preferred to be face to face.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Thinking right across, it would have been difficult for a lot of the commissioners to sit back and just take it all in. Yeah.
That's interesting. Well, would you encourage other elders within St. John's Preparatory to attend these assemblies?
Of course, Timothy. I think it's a great opportunity for them to know how the business is maintained and documented in the presbytery. I think it's also a great way to meet other ministers and commissioners of other presbytery.
Oh, wow. Excellent. Well, look, this is, I just wanted to give you one final opportunity. Is there anything else that you wanted to share about your experience?
Be prepared to read because
Ah,
it's important. It's
yes.
so important to read those documentation. It's so important to ask questions
Yes.
and not be afraid to ask questions. If you don't, yeah, because you're not going there for yourself. You're
Yes.
actually going for the local.
Yeah. Naomi, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you sharing your testimony with us. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much, and may the Lord bless your love for Him and your service for the church. Thank you for representing St. John's Preparatory.
Thank you.
You're welcome.